Namaskar, friends. Today I will be discussing with you how to pick and choose the different cereals, grain, or anna, and how to decide which ones are the right ones for you and which ones you have to avoid. There's a lot of controversy, misinformation based on the individuals you listen to. So today I will try to combine the Ayurvedic concepts with the allopathic concepts for the different food items, but today we will concentrate on grains or anna. So let's put on the left side the Ayurvedic aspects, and on the right side we will talk about the allopathic aspects. So with allopathic aspects, we will just talk about specific uh, chemicals, and two chemicals I will talk about. The first one is called phytic acid, and the second one is called lectins. And then we will try to understand why these are damaging and how they correlate what our forefathers had already found in Ayurveda. Why are they similar in terms of damaging us? So Ayurvedic concepts, obviously, when we are talking about Ayurveda, we are talking about Vat, Pitta and Kapha. So we will put here choices for Vat dosh, Pitta dosh and Kapha dosh. The idea is there is not a single food item that is going to be okay for everybody. One size does not fit all. So you have to be tailoring based on your dosha. That is the first lesson I want you to understand, that you have to diagnose your dosha. So please go back to the lecture on diagnose your dosha, where I talk about how to distinguish your physical traits, Annabhut, Annamayi Sharir, to understand what your gross body composition based on Bhumi, Rapo, Nalo, Vayu, fire, earth, air, water, ether, what kind of composition you have, how much of Vat you have, Pitta you have, and Kapha you have. So the idea is to understand that grains, if you know the origin of these doshas, it becomes very easy. So let me just write it there. Then I will talk about what grains to eat or avoid. Vat is composed of Vayu or air and Akash or ether. Similarly, Pitta is composed of fire, Agni, which is the predominant force, and water, which is the secondary adjacent force. Similarly, Kapha is composed predominantly of earth and water as the secondary component. The dosha defect, this is defect because there is a combination of two different Mahabhuts. So Kapha dosha is most likely defects of water excess, and Pitta dosha is usually a defect of water excess, or you can say in a proportion that is not going to create nirdosh or lack of defects. Similarly, Vata, you can understand that the adjoining ether is defective because they are doshas, defects. So grains in general, Pitta, people with, let's talk about Vatika conditions, or let's talk about Vat dosh. As I have told you earlier, there is a cyclicity in biological life. When you are young, you are Kapha. When you are middle-aged, 20 to 40, you are Pitta. After 40, slowly as you growing older, Vat is getting predominant. Similarly, there is a seasonal cyclicity. Winter is Vat. As you go towards, I should say more the summers and the rainy season, you are getting more Pitta. So you have to know, and then of course the spring season when everything is melting is slowly the season of the Kapha. So you have to know what season we are in to determine the foods you eat. You have to know what age or stage you are in to determine what foods to eat. Also, there is a diurnal cycle. Like 3 to 7 a.m. is Vat, 3 to 7 p.m. is Vat, 7 to 11 is more like Kapha, and 11 to 3 a.m. or p.m. is more like Pitta. So if you know what time you are eating, then also you can modulate depending upon what foods to eat or avoid. But in general, as we are growing older, Vat is getting more and more in the body, Kapha is getting less and less in the body. Problems of degeneration are Vat, inflammation are Pitta, congestion accumulation are Kapha. That is the basic understanding. So think about grains. Grains, as Krishna says, अन्नाद भवन्ति भूतानि पर्जन्याद अनसंभवा यज्ञाद भवति पर्जन्यो यज्ञ कर्म समुद्भव कर्म ब्रह्मोद्भवम. तो अन्नाद भवन्ति भूतानि पर्जन्याद, the rain falling on the ground is creating the anna, which is of course nourishing. So earth, the earth component, because they're coming out from the earth, they are very much grounding. Now I will put another link here, because of course nothing is complete in my life without Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is not only our mentor, spiritual leader, he is also our dietitian and nutritionist. So 4 words that Krishna uses in chapter 17 to describe sattvic food are rasya, snigdha, sthira and hridaya. We have to know what the basic essence of these words are to understand that they are sattvic foods. Obviously, you have to eat sattvic foods. They are the best guna. Sattva, rajas, tamas is sattva. So, rasya can be considered as juicy. Snigdha as greasy. Sthira as grounding. And hridaya as pleasing. If these 4 components are present in the food, that is sattvic food. Of course, there's high pranic foods that are going to create vibration, dynamicity, energy in you. So those are different lists. But yeah, sattvic foods, when you talk about, these are the characteristics. Most of the sattvic and pranic foods will overlap. Whether you think about coconut oil or ghee or ashgard, lauki, all those things, they will be high pranic foods. And there's a reason, because all of them are decreasing the dosha, as we will soon learn. So my friends, let's come to the grounding effect. The grounding is the sthira. So a good food, good thing about grains is they are grounding. Let's write the characteristics of grains. Grains, if you think about the characteristics, they are coming from the ground. So they are sthira. Okay, that's a good thing. What else? Grains are laghu, which means they are easy to digest. Okay, good thing. You have to think about good as bad. As the age is advancing, you are becoming more vata prone. So vata, as I have told, most of the disorders that we will get as we grow older, 40s, 50s, 60s, will become vata. You can correlate it with ida roughly, but that's where vata is lying. So sthira and laghu are the characteristics. Now there is something called virya or potency. So the grains are ushna, which means they are a heating potency. So that's a good thing. Now they are also Brahman. Brahman means nourishing. So you have to know Annat Bhavanti Bhutani. In the end he says Annat Bhavanti Bhutani Parjanya Dan Sambhava Yagyat Bhavati Parjanya Yagya Karm Brahmodbhavam Vidhi Brahmakshar Samudbhavam. Karm Brahmodbhavam, Karm se Brahma aata hai. So there is a component of Brahman. You can think about as the universal totality, or you can think about as the nourishing potency. So Brahman is nourishing. So sthira is grounding. Laghu is easily digestible. Your Ushna is hot potency. And Brahman is nourishing. So you need food to nourish the Panchbhautik Sharir, obviously. These are the good traits. Now, the good traits for reduction of Vat, if you think, because Vat is a condition of excess of air and ether. So there is weak digestion. Irritable bowel syndrome can happen. There is dyspepsia, unable to digest because the digestive juices are weak. There is also a lot of movement in Vata. That's why the anxiety or the headache or the air going in the joints and creating joint pain, autoimmune conditions like rheumatoid arthritis, all of them are predominance of Vata, degeneration. Of course, if you add Pitta, then there's a component of inflammation. If you add Kapha, then there's a component of congestion. Any combination can happen, but Vata in purity represents degeneration, leaking of air or the Vata, air, ether quality in the places it should not be. So, grains are good for Vatika conditions. Grains in general are good for individuals who have excess of Vata, excess of Ida. You can think about all the clinical manifestations: racing mind, insomnia, migraine headaches, or there is too much of dry cough, palpitations, or irritable bowel syndrome. And then there is certain skin conditions that dryness will create by itself. Those are Vata related. So all these things of dryness, cool, and movement, joints, osteoarthritis, joint pain, ligaments, too much of laxity, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, all those conditions are representing too much of mobility, cool, and instability. So those things are grounded by the grains. Grains, grains are gonna make it easy to digest the stuff. But the problem is we have to know whether the grains are right for us based on the dosha. 4 grains are considered right for everybody. That is amaranth, second is barley, third is quinoa, and fourth is rice. Now, if you think about where they grow, that is also a good indication. If something is growing like rice paddy fields in South India or China, lots of rain, you soak the paddy fields and then they will sprout. So that is having good water content. Water is good for Vata because Vata in its nature is cool, dry, Sara, Ruksh, movement prone. So water is good. That's why rice is good, barley is good. But as the water content goes down, things like millets, things like puffed grains, popcorns, granola, anything that is dry, oat, if it is too dry, Vata will not like it. All those things will be good for Kapha, which is too much of earth and water. So you want to dry that up. So that will work. In Pitta also it will work to a certain extent if there is no inflammation component. But let's stick with Vata. So Vata, eat all grains, eat in moderation obviously, but eat the grains when they have been further simplified by the processes of soaking, boiling, fermentation. So those 3 words I want you to remember: soak, boil, and ferment. When you do that, soak, boil, and ferment. What is ferment? Ferment is prolonged soaking in the ambient right temperature so that the yeast can act on the cells, break the cell walls, act on these 2 chemicals. So let me connect this idea of soaking, boiling, and fermenting. We'll use a different color here. Soaking, boiling, and fermenting, which is considered good attributes for Vata conditions, and also it is considered good attributes. I will abbreviate soak, boil, and ferment, SBF. Okay, so soak, boil, and ferment is considered good attributes in general for most grains, because what happens when you soak the grain, it will act on the grains when you're soaking it overnight. So there is a release of a chemical called phytase. Now phytase is the enzyme that breaks down the phytic acid. Phytic acid is containing, phytic acid is the way for the grains to store phosphorus. So it's of course a defensive property, but the idea is that phytic acid is locking the minerals, calcium, copper, manganese, some trace minerals. It is locking it, and since it's an acid, it binds to it, it's not available to you when you eat it. And of course, the phytic acid itself can leach the enamel. That's another problem. So the dental caries can happen from lectin and phytates. So that's why boiling, soaking, fermenting, this is pre-processing, very important to break the phytic acid so that the minerals that were attached to the phytic acid can be released, and now the bioavailability has increased. Those minerals are available to you. So that's why when you're eating these enriched foods, you have a way to absorb the food. That is why it's very important to have bioavailability, which is the ability of the body to absorb and assimilate the ingredient, minerals, vitamins, any nutrient that is containing in the food. So the bioavailability is created by destruction of phytic acid by phytase, which is activated by the process of soaking, and prolonged soaking is fermentation. Okay. The second thing is lectins. Lectins are commonly called anti-nutrients. Lectins are present in most of the grains. Of course, they are present in legumes as well. But the idea is that lectins will lock the absorption of certain nutrients by the gut. Lectins cannot be absorbed by the human body. They pass out unchanged. But this itself is causing us to not absorb the nutrients because of the way it binds with carbohydrates. So phytic acid and lectins are the enemies that are present in most of the plants as a defensive mechanism so that animals and other individuals don't eat them. So it's a defensive mechanism. We have to understand why they are there. The plant is trying to protect itself. So you ask for chama or daya, and then you consume the food with the right intention, and then of course trying to grow spiritually. So that humility should be there for everything we are enjoying in this samsara temporarily. So phytic acid is destroyed by phytase, by soaking. Lectins again are an ingredient in the grains which we have damage from. I am not sure if lectins can be destroyed by these processes, but we do know that these are the damaging ingredients. So avoiding grains is not a bad idea once in a while. We will talk about that. Okay, come to Pitta. Pitta is about fire and water, and of course if the water is in imbalance, then the Pitta dosha is aggravated. So you want the Agni to be strong, and that's why Pitta is about rekindling the Jఠragni or the epigastrium fire, which is helping to digest the food. Pitta, as I said, Vat allowed everything can be eaten, eat in moderation, small quantities. In case of Pitta, again, it's very similar. And Vata mein, it is good to eat the grains. Pitta, just remember that Ati Sarvatra Varjayat. Same rule applies like Vat. But in Pitta, you have to be eating even in smaller quantities. So Pitta, you have aggravation or damage to the doshas will happen if you consume excess of any grain. In general, Pitta is the fire. If you give too much things in the fire will not be able to burn it out. The fire itself will be suppressed. So the digestion will not happen. There will be formation of toxins or ama. So that same thing, now since Pitta is also about inflammation, Pitta is about attacking something before it attacks you, just like a hyper strong immune system. I don't know if you want to call it strong, it is more hyperactive. So it is doing things which you are not supposed to do, attacking the own body, autoimmune conditions, things like psoriasis, things like atopic dermatitis, inflammatory bowel syndrome, not irritable bowel syndrome. Inflammatory bowel syndrome is a very severe condition of immune system, what we call the ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. So any autoimmune condition, thyroid, Hashimoto's thyroid, any condition, if the body is attacking its own cell, there's a component of cellular pitta getting overactivated. So that's why you need to have the fire in balance with the water. If there is too much of water or the fire is weak, then the pitta dosh increases. So my friends, pitta avoid excessive, so small light meals, especially intermittent fasting works best for pitta. If you have any problem, the fire will automatically rekindle because the body always had a strong fire in pitta dosha. So all you need to do is have some sanyam and reduce the intake of foods. The only difference is instead of soak, boil, ferment, in pitta the grains have to be pre-processed using soak, boil and toast. You see, I left out ferment and replaced it with toast. What is the difference? Think about it. Pitta people, the body constitution is such that they will do better with foods which are sugary, bitter and astringent. So what is the enemy of pitta? An enemy of pitta is katu, pungent, which is the tikha, like cayenne, cayenne peppers, chilies, all those things, which are kind of hot potency. Ushna. So that is why, because the grains have a Ushna tendency, Ati Sarvatra Varjet. Although the Ushna is required in Vat, because Vat is Sheet or cold, Sara, Kala. So Vat and Pitta are differing because the Ushna of grains is good for the Vat, but it is damaging to the Pitta. Okay, now think about the Laghu tendency. Laghu is the easily digestible. That is good for Vat and good for Pitta. Anything that is Laghu is good for the body, right? It's easy to digest. But the problem is that the Pitta especially gets aggravated when you process the grains. Today's grains are not the same as the ancient grains that we ate. So there's a lot of processing involved. Milling, polishing, refining. You'll see white. White is bright. Bright is not good. Anything that is extremely white means it is extremely refined and processed. White, extreme white rice, extreme white color of the wheat. Wheat in general will have a yellow tinge if you use the desi gehu and not get the genetically modified and polished rice. So the white color itself tells you there has been a chemical treatment in the wheat or any other grain. So you don't want extreme white color, because although it is appealing to the eyes, it is filled with chemicals which are damaging the pitta component. Pro-inflammation is activated. All the autoimmune conditions, if you take a break from the pro-inflammatory foods, if you take a break from the foods that have been processed, refined, chemically altered, genetically manipulated, then the body can go back to the nature and the sun and water can work in symbiosis to give us a balance in the pitta dosha with the other doshas. So you don't ferment, because ferment is the process of generation of acidity, sour. Pitta people like sweet, bitter, astringent. The enemies are hot or ushna and sour or amla. So that is why acidity is bad for pitta. And when you have too much of acidity in the body, that itself is a sign, reflux, heartburn, that is too much of pitta condition. If you eat too much, you will get acidity. Why? Because the fire is not strong enough to handle the amount of food you are eating. The food in the stomach, at least you should have 1/4 of the stomach empty. You should stop eating, not wait to over, not overeat and fill your stomach, but you should stop eating when you are just a little bit hungry still, with the first burp or before the burp happens. Just stop eating then. So that is the way a yogi eats. Yuktahar viharasya yuk chestasya karmsu yuk swapn bodhasya yoga bhavati dukha. Yuktahar viharasya. Ahar vihar mein sanyam dikhaiye. You have to eat in moderation when you are eating. So that is very much required in pitta dosha, because anytime you overeat, no matter even if you eat healthy sattvic food, if you overeat, the ati sarvatra varjet, amla is the undigested toxin that is formed from the food that cannot be digested and stays and putrefies in the stomach. So very important to eat in small amounts, and the food should not be fermented. Fermented foods like kombucha or certain kind, even like kimchi, sauerkraut, those things will aggravate the pitta, and hence there will be worsening of your pre-existing condition. So any ida activity or too much of vata activity, you have to avoid fermented foods. Okay, toasting helps. Why does toasting help? Toasting is almost a way of reducing the water. You are heating in a way to desiccate or remove the water. Too much of water is there, you remove it so the fire can get stronger. Why do we ask you not to drink water just before you are eating or during eating? Because it will shaman, it will suppress the agni, Jatharagni, or the fire that helps you digest. So that is the reason toasting, if you toast the bread and eat it, that might be better. But you don't want to drink water when you are eating. You don't want to have fermented foods when you have pitta dosh activity too much. Okay, so pitta, there is grains are okay. In vat, they are definitely good. A person with vat should eat grains. They are one of the best foods for them. Kapha, avoid all grains. You see how scientific it is? Vat, eat all grains. Pitta, eat grains in moderation. Kapha, avoid all grains. So grains in general are not good for kapha dosha. Why? Well, think about it. Kapha is about earth. Earth is about stability, grounding. There is already grounding. How much will you ground this person? Sthira. Already he's grounded and you are grounding him more. So that creates constipation. That can create slow metabolism. That can create obesity because it's already a disease of congestion, accumulation, impaction, obstruction. So the more you eat those kind of foods, those things will get aggravated. Your kapha dosha is aggravated. You have a lot of phlegm. You have a lot of the fungal infections that happen. Candidiasis can happen. Balanitis can happen. Anything that is to do with fungus will grow when you have too much of kapha. Anything that has to do with congestion, impaction will grow. So there can be things like formation of phlegm, rhinitis also can happen, but also there can be impaction related problems. So accretion in the gallbladder, so you have gallstones, accretion in the kidney, so you can have kidney stones. So it's a problem of anti-mobility. Kapha and vata are antonyms, are extreme opposites. Pitta is singing a different song, transformation. The song of transformation, the song of degeneration, the song of creation. But too much of creation without mobility leads to impaction, leads to greed. So greed results best with kapha. If you think of lust and anger, those are more like pitta. But those are kind of spiritual connotations. But for the most part, kapha is about agale lagja, and they will not let you go. So it's too much of togetherness, as they call it. Too much of togetherness. We don't want that. There's no space between things. So kapha, again, you can soak, boil, and ferment. Because kapha, the metabolism is slow. When you soak it, you have the phytase, there's natural release of enzymes. These enzymes will pre-digest the food and metabolism will be faster. Kapha people want things to move through them. Constipation is the predominant problem. Heartburn is the predominant problem in pitta. Pure vata, there's more of peristalsis or diarrhea. Although irritable bowel syndrome can have both diarrhea type and the constipation predominant. But that is like crystal clear, monolithic representation of the doshas with the GI system. So use soak, boil, and ferment your grain if you're gonna eat the grain. But the less you eat, the better it is. Now, also one thing, remember the character of the grain. If it is puffed grains, oats, it is granola, anything that is dry, tortilla chips, millets, corn, or even like your yeast bread, if it is fermented, all those things are good for kapha because they are drying it. The millet, the tortilla chips, they have less water content. Water is being driven out. So that is why it is good for kapha. However, vata is about dryness. If you give too much dryness, it becomes even more dry. Vata is even more aggravated. So all those things, puffed grains, your granola bars, your tortilla chips, anything that is dry, millets, corn, that is growing in arid conditions, dry conditions, millet especially, bajra, those things will cause more problems. So that is why you have to avoid dry in vata. You have to embrace dry in kapha. In pitta, you have to avoid over processing, milling, refining, chemical alteration. So in general, that is the basics. In general, let's summarize it here. foods that we should eat in general should be sattvic, no question. Forget the dosha. Food should be rasya, snigdha, sthira, hridaya. Rasya is juicy, snigdha is greasy to let things move. Sthira is grounding so that there's not too much of vat, and hridaya is pleasing. So you can connect with your internal thing, you can get satisfaction. When you are satisfied, you're not craving, hankering, going for sugar and stuff like that, causing yourself damage. So those are the characteristics of sattvic food that you have to have. Now, let me quickly cover something called Grain Brain, a book again on allopathy. So, Grain Brain talks about how grains can be detrimental to the intake, because grains, remember, there's cholesterol. The LDL and HDL are the two different kinds of cholesterol in grains as well. You want to have more of HDL, or the exercising cholesterol, it increases. You want the ratio to be less than 3.5 of total cholesterol divided by HDL. So when you look at your numbers on the lipid profile, just divide the total cholesterol, which is usually 200, by HDL, which will be 50. 3.5 or less is good, but the higher it is means you're not exercising. Move more. The more you move, there's more neurogenesis, formation of new neuronal networks. The more you fast, there is more neurogenesis, formation of neuronal networks. Some people will say formation of BDNF, brain derived neurotropic factors. There's better memory, cognition improves, intellect improves, sense of dharma will get better. So you have to do more of fasting and more of movement, exercise. Don't sit still. Sitting is the next obesity, the next epidemic leading to obesity. And the last thing is sleep. Of course, you have to sleep as many hours as you required. If you're a yogi, you probably sleep less. If you are a bhogi, you probably will have to sleep more. But the idea is sleep the optimum amounts where you wake up satisfied, where you wake up and you have a sense of regeneration. You feel replenished, to energetically charged to take on that day. So those things are basically synopsis of Grain Brain. Wheat Belly talks about why wheat is bad, especially today's wheat, which is so much altered, processed. There is gluten, gliadin, glutenin. All these chemicals are going to cause centripetal obesity because they cannot be processed. The idea is the same. When something is sthira, and when something is processed, the body cannot get rid of it. So the toxin or amla will accumulate, and hence there will be more obesity or kaphagenic conditions. So my friends, let me summarize everything I said. This is first of a series of lectures in which we'll cover the different foods, the Ayurvedic and the allopathic aspects. Grains in general are good for vata conditions, vatika conditions of people having excess of vat, because grains are grounding or sthira. Rasya snigdha sthira hridaya represents the characteristics of juicy, greasy, grounding and pleasing to the heart that have been determined sattvic by Krishna. So always aim for rasya snigdha sthira hridaya regardless of your basic dosh. Now once you have diagnosed your dosha, based on our lectures, diagnose your dosha in YouTube, you come to this page and see whether I have excess of vat, pitta or kapha. If you have excess of vat, you can eat grains on a regular basis. If you have excess of pitta, you have to avoid processed grains, milled, or anything that is chemically altered, genetically modified, because the pitta is a state of pro-inflammation. You will have more autoimmune conditions, irritable bowel syndrome included. Now, third is kapha. Kapha is a condition of too much of earth and water. So there's too much of congestion, accumulation. You have to reduce the intake of grains because grains will create obesity. They are energy dense. The 6 characteristics of rasa, as we know, are sweet, sour, salty, bitter, pungent, astringent. The energy density is in decreasing order. The sweet, which is madhur, that is another characteristic of the grains, madhur or sweetness, especially if you use it is kept stored for long periods of time. So the old rice, old wheat, they are considered good because they are sattvic madhur. They are good for the body in general. So you have to reduce your intake of grains if possible in kapha. You have to moderate your intake of grains, especially which are processed in pitta, and you are encouraged to take grains in vat. This is the basic understanding. One quick sentence: try to avoid all grains regardless of your conditions at least twice a month. Every time you do Ekadashi fasting, the recommendations are, which happens almost 2 times in 30 days, with the new moon 11th day or the receding moon 11th day. The idea is that you will avoid both the grains and legumes, phytic acid, lectins, and all the ill effects that can happen related to doshas, because fasting reduces your doshas. So the idea is in Ekadashi, you totally shun the grains and the legumes, both of which will create aging, both of which will create inflammation because of all the processing we see in the grains today. Every 15 days, give your body a break for 24 hours in the name of God. Just surrender the food to Krishna for once every 15 days and just fast. You will feel better. Your energy will rise. Body will be able to metabolize the stored glycogen in the body, so that the glycogen can be broken into glucose, and the resistance, insulin resistance, as obesity code talks about, the more you fast 24-36 hours, higher the resting metabolic rate rises, higher your heart will beat, higher the activity prana in all the cells in the body, you'll faster lose weight. So instead of fasting 2 times in 1 week, you can fast 1 day, but a little prolonged fast if your body condition allows. Please consult your doctor before fasting, but slowly, gradually increase under medical supervision, and try to create either dry fast, which is just not eating anything, or a wet fast. That is your thing, but try not to eat grains on your Ekadashi fasting, both for scriptural injunctions and health reasons. So my friends, this is all about grains I wanted to tell you, and if you have any questions, please feel free to leave comments below. We will make further new lectures on legumes, oils, fats, meat, dairy, sweeteners in upcoming lectures. Jai Shri Ram.